Parenting Porcupines. This is episode number 6. We're going to take on the education conundrum that we're experiencing right now here in August 2020. And we'll start with introductions. So Alex, tell us about yourself.
Well, my name's Alex. I live in Charleston, and I have a tiny man who is recently 1 year old, and we have just started getting sleep again. So I'm very grateful for this time in our lives.
You look as refreshed as I do. I just came off vacation, but you're just getting a good night's sleep. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just wake up after 8 hours. It's amazing.
Melissa, tell us about yourself.
I'm Melissa. I am also in Charleston. I have a kindergartner, a second grader, and a fifth grader. And it pains me to say he's in fifth grade because I can't even believe it.
All public school kids?
Yes, but different kinds of public school.
Okay, good. We'll get into that. And Jessica, who are you? Where are you from?
I'm Jessica. I'm here in the upstate of South Carolina, and I have 2 sons. One is a rising 6th grader, and the other is a rising 3rd grader. And we do public school. Both of my kids go to public school.
So I'm Casey, and I have a rising 7th grader. And if you think it's painful to say your kid's in 5th grade, wait till they get to middle school, right, Jessica? And then you're like, oh my God, elementary school is over. And as a matter of fact, I really liked our elementary school too. And I thought I was going to be really sad when she went to middle school just from that, like, crossing the boundary. But honestly, I struggled with the Parent-Teacher Association and the moms that had a lot of time to be able to dedicate to all the things that the schools are asking us to do. And I do think that right now teachers are being asked a lot, right? Like same as police officers are being asked to do things that are like well outside the boundary of being a teacher. But I also think that parents are being asked to do a lot more too. Like when we were in school, do you remember having so many field trips and parties and after school events and weekend things? Like, I mean, I feel like we're constantly being asked to either send money or show up on campus. And so I was kind of glad to be out of elementary school because I thought maybe as she gets older, they'll want me around less than they did when she was younger. So I don't know, maybe that's just me. So let's talk about COVID and what it's done, because now we're here in August 2020 and we're having to make some choices. So Jessica, tell us what the scenario is in the upstate and what you guys are thinking about doing for your family.
Yeah, so we were given 2 options, the school district that we're in, and I've actually look like this because I've been dealing with that today. So trying to figure out what the hell we're actually doing because I've yet to figure it out. So they gave us 2 options. There's this this virtual option where they can go full-time virtual school through the school district. They have the kids split up by their last name. And so there are 4 color groups. And so to begin the school year, they're going to go 1 day a week, and then the other 4 days are going to be virtual learning. As the numbers decrease, they will go to 2 days a week and 3 days of virtual learning. And then the next step is 5 days a week if we ever get there. God knows if we will. My kids, because my first son, my elder child, is from a previous relationship, so they have different last names. So they're in different color groups. So they're on different days. Different schools.
Oh my goodness.
The large child needs uniforms. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I'm doing. Don't ask. I don't know.
I didn't even
I'm praying,
think of that.
that's what I'm doing.
I didn't even think of that children in the same family with different last names would have this, it would split them that way. Like that didn't even occur to me. Wow, that's amazing. I know that my friend who has her kids in different grade levels was concerned about the grade level split, right? So Melissa, your kids are in different grade levels. Does Charleston have the same kind of hybrid sort of approach?
Charleston still is really not sure what they're doing, which is par for the course for Charleston County schools.
Yes, it is.
I couldn't, when my eldest got old enough to get ready to go to kindergarten, I could not find on the Charleston County School District website a cutoff date. If your kid is born by this date, they should be registered for kindergarten this year. It did not say that. I had to call a school to find out when my kid was supposed to go to kindergarten. It says nothing. But we have a in-person which no one still knows what that looks like. It depends on the school, what capacity the school has. So you can choose in person, but they won't actually be going in person because Charleston's been so bad with the COVID. So they'll be doing virtual, but it's a different virtual than the virtual option, which you sign up for at 9 weeks at a time. And after 9 weeks, you can decide, okay, we're ready to go back to regular school, in-person school.
That's frustrating. So Alex, do you guys have Perry in some
Charleston
kind of
doesn't know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing, but
Alex, do you guys have a childcare solution for Perry? Are you going back to work? Is he going, on site to a facility somewhere?
I'm super thankful right now, obviously, incredibly grateful. I work from home primarily, and I do my job when Sean is done at work. He works from like 5 to 2 usually, which is an incredible blessing that I have a man that wakes up that early in the morning to start work. And then I work from about 2:30 to 5:30, do dinner, put Perry to bed, and then continue working. So I feel for y'all very deeply, but right now we're just chilling at home.
Oh, that's lucky. It's definitely lucky. So, okay, so we're in Columbia and my daughter is going into 7th grade.
so where do we leave off?
In our Richland 2 school district has offered us a virtual opportunity that they were building. R2E School is what they're calling it. And then there is the slow go back to school scenario where she'd go back on campus. And we talked in our bullying episode about some of the challenges that Holly had on campus last year. And so we really are not that excited about sending her back to campus. She doesn't want to go back to campus. So we decided to apply for the virtual R2E School. They received 2,600 applications. They have 900 slots available. So we're fucked, basically. I mean, we're not getting into e-school. We don't have any medical conditions, right? They didn't have a box that said, do you just hate school? Check here, like on the application. So, Melissa.
I'm going to raise my hand here. My 5th grader goes to Connections Academy.
Mhm.
It is online school. It's public school, but it's e-school. He does it from home. It's online because he needs a very quiet, no distractions environment and someone cracking a whip on him. So that works for him. My girls would lose their place in their magnet school if I enrolled them in a different school. So they're just doing the virtual through the school district. But if, you're just going to the school your daughter's zoned at, you could look into putting Connections or K-12 is the other one.
So that's one of the options on the table for us right now, right? And then the other one is Discover K-12, which is a private school, a free private school platform, homeschool platform that you can, if I want to log in as her parent and oversee her schooling, I have to pay for my account, but she gets an account for free, right? And so we have these 2 virtual options that are available to us. We just have to explore them. And really what I was concerned about with the Richland School District was that I didn't want to, what's the right way to put this? I wanted options, right? I didn't want to be told this is what you have to do. I wanted to be given options. And I felt like at this point with this COVID crisis, we had this huge opportunity in our state to restructure everything related to education. And instead, I feel like we have just pissed it away for the last 6 months. And everybody is rushing back to get back to the same old as fast as they can. And I'm really frustrated by that. And today there was an article on reason.com about teachers unions in California trying to stop charter schools from being able to siphon off some of these students. And, in South Carolina, we're pretty aggressive about school choice and allowing parents to make choices for their students and all that. And yet I still felt like that we were being pushed between a rock and a hard place.
In Greenville, we had to make a decision by, I don't remember what the deadline was. I missed it. The commitment was that whatever you choose, whatever box you put yourself in, you're committed to it for at least it was an impossible choice because Nobody has any information. At the time, it was, I mean, this was weeks ago, like nobody knows what's going to happen. And to your point, Casey, I think I'm equally frustrated by that. The fact that we've had, I mean, this has been going on since, when did they close schools? Do we even remember?
May.
When was that? Because it's
Or
all
no,
running
April.
together.
It was April.
It was April.
I think it was April. So they closed schools in April. I mean, they've had 4 months now to figure this out. An advocate for educators. He does a lot of training and professional development for educators. And he posted on Facebook earlier today that in Spartanburg, I think District 2, maybe, I could be wrong, but that he has a friend that he knows who lives in that district, and her father was just diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, I believe, but he's terminal. I mean, he's got months tops left. And they were going to do the back to school option. And so she reached out to the district and said, at this point, I would like to revisit that and see if we can do virtual due to family circumstances. Virtual would be better for our family at this time, because she wanted her child to be able to spend more time with her father in his final time here. They told her no. They said, no, we can't make any changes.
Because if we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody.
We might
that's
actually
not
have
even
to
a
serve
thing.
the families
That's
in our
not a
district.
thing. I don't know why people say that shit. Like they do it at the university too, where people are like, hey, Casey, I can't let this person change into your class because if I do it for her, I have to do it for everybody. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just
Not
tell the next guy
everybody wants
no. You just be like, you're the second
Are you
person
getting
to
a
ask.
million requests?
If you had been the first person to ask, I would have said yes, but you were the second person, so fuck off, no. Like, I don't understand why people think that. They used to say that to me when I was when I worked for Cinex. I was pregnant with Holly, and my feet were like enormous. I mean, I had preeclampsia. I had these gigantic feet. You guys remember being pregnant, right? It's towards the end of my pregnancy. And my supervisor went and asked for permission for me to wear flip-flops to work. And they were nice flip-flops. They were leather flip-flops. These are like wear them to the White House flip-flops, right? And at the same time, our HR goes, oh no, if we let her do it, we have to let everybody do it. And my boss was like, no, you don't. You have to let 9-month pregnant ladies do it when their feet are enormous, right?
When there's a reason and a justification for
yes,
it.
When the
Just
family member,
wanna.
when they have somebody with stage 4 lung cancer in their family, you can revisit the decision. Like that's the dumbest excuse ever. We can't. If we did that for you, we have to do it for everybody. I gotta no. It's not a
Where
thing.
does that mindset come from?
I mean,
where does it originate?
It's only fair that if we do it for one, we have to do it for the other because it's fair.
And it's such total crap. It's absolute crap from the bottom up. It doesn't matter if this is about letting you into a class or not into a class. It doesn't matter if it's about flip-flops at work. Every single time some authority tells you, if we do it for you, we got to do it for everybody, you just give them a big high five in the face with a chair, because that's just not true. It's just not true.
Casey, I would have paid money to see you high five someone's face with your flip flop.
Same, honestly.
Okay, so
I want to get back to the to Casey's point that it's been 4 months and no one's come up with a new system or a better system. My heart was happy the other day. I was on Facebook, and the Children's Museum of the Low Country, which is just a kids museum downtown, had a post about their school camp. So they are offering all day long camp for kids that are doing the virtual school options whose parents can't be with them. Mm-hmm. So I was like, see, there's a problem. Someone will fix the problem. Yeah. And there's been tons in our like district parent web Facebook group. There's been tons of discussion. Well, I'm home all day. I've got a 4th grader. Does anybody else have 4th graders they want to send to my house to do virtual school? So they're forming little pods and co-ops.
Yeah.
Because people have to go to work. Not
Yes.
everyone has a parent that stays home all day, and
So
people have got.
our education system has defaulted to providing two basic services. Number one, it occupies children while parents are at work.
It's
And number
daycare.
two, it meets the legal requirement that we educate our kids. That's it. Like, and in South Carolina, we're not even doing that part very well. We're just meeting the legal requirement, but they're still not actually learning very much, right?
They're physically at school.
But they're physically there 180 days. So I was looking up homeschooling options, and it says that the state of South Carolina requires 4.5 hours a day. And I looked at Holly and I was like, even if you're doing homeschool, babe, you're going to have to do 4.5 hours a day. And she goes, what if it doesn't take me 4.5 hours a day? Yes. See, because time is not work. It's not the same thing, right? So I think you're hitting on something really important. In the past, the way we created these systems, they no longer apply. They're no longer relevant. And so in the last 4 months, I know they've been working their asses off. We have a friend here that is a school teacher for Richland District 1. I know she's been working her ass off all summer, and she's been working a lot more than they paid her to work, even though they have actually been paying her to do this work, and above and beyond her 9-month salary. They've been paying her extra. I know she's been working really hard, but she's working on the tactical level. How do I deliver content? She's not working at that strategic level, which is like, how do we reimagine school? What could school actually look like if we were to spend a little bit more time looking at different models and adopting, possibilities? And that's what I wanted from our district. I wanted to have choices, and we just didn't get them.
And I want to shift gears just a little bit, because I think it's very interesting, something that Melissa, you just touched on with your information about what the Charleston Children's Museum is doing. I've heard of some daycares here in the upstate that are going to be offering similar services. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I haven't dug into that, but it's my understanding, just my kind of base level understanding, that they're going to have people who are going to be staffed to basically
Facilitate
kids and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do for this virtual learning, which is a really good example of how the free market provides, right? So when there's a need, a free market can meet that need.
I agree with that, but I want to say something too that I found in the stuff I was researching today. That money that we spend in South Carolina, we're spending $14,000 per student per year. $14,000. If you decide that you're going to send your kid to something alternative, the voucher that you can get is $2,500. So the school district, that government monopoly is making bank on their enrollment numbers. And so this is where that Reason article comes in, is it's talking about how the enrollment numbers mean less money for the school district, which means lower salaries, fewer administrative personnel, blah, 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 blah. Things that the free market figures out a way to handle. We're not going to reduce funding for education in this country. That's not going to happen. So these free market solutions, when they come up, a lot of them are going after that funding. They're saying, hey, parents, ask for the voucher, kick it our way, right? And so there's no way that we're not going to keep taxing citizens and keep paying for school. It's just where that money's going to go, because these virtual platforms have to get paid for too. And they're just waiting for parents to defect from the government school and shift that money to them instead. So go ahead, Melissa.
I had a phone call from my son's 5th grade teacher yesterday to introduce herself and whatnot. And she was so excited that we were a returning family who had done virtual schooling before, because she said their enrollment is bananas huge. She has like 3 kids that were enrolled last year in the entire class. The rest of it is brand new 5th graders to virtual schooling. And they've had to hire 5-6 teachers for each grade to keep up with the demand. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree that there's a free market is going to fill the vacuum, but I think it's still going to continue to cost us money, because I think that those parents don't want to pay. We have made education an entitlement in this country. We've made it something people think they have a right to, which we all know as libertarians is not a thing, right? Like, that's It's not a thing when somebody else has to provide that for you, right? And so, especially now because it's an election year, you're not going to hear any politician say defund schools. That's not going to be a thing. We're going to continue to spend money on it. It's just that that money is going to get redirected. And in South Carolina, we're trying to redirect more of it to, God help us all, parochial schools.
I'm going to go ahead and
those
hold
of you
out a tiny bit of hope, though, because everybody always is playing catch up with the Libertarian Party as far as gay marriage rights go and ending the drug war and qualified immunity. Like, these are all things that we've been talking about forever. And then eventually everybody comes around to our side. So maybe, Casey, if we keep talking about it, maybe it'll happen one day.
I don't know, man.
I think parents, from what I see in the Facebook groups, parents are mad that they don't have more options.
They should.
And they're not in charge of how their children get schooled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're essentially forced to fund this at the end of a barrel of a gun, right? Like by paying taxes. Part of what you pay for is education, property taxes, all of those things. Like a substantial amount is going to go to pay for education. And so when you think about that, especially, you know, like I'm very fortunate that I work from home. So even though my job is very demanding and it's very inconvenient to have to school my children, I'm not losing income because my kids have to do virtual school, right? Like that is a huge privilege that I have. But if I were a parent that had to go to work and I was paying out of my paycheck, if I owned a house, paying out of those property taxes that I pay for education to be funded, and there were no better options being provided in that marketplace, if we want to call it a marketplace, I would be furious. Like, and I mean, I already am furious. I think it sucks. It really sucks. But I mean, being in that situation and not having any option, or feeling like you don't have an option. You obviously do have an option. You can vote for the people who
aren't gonna take your stuff.
Who aren't gonna take your thing.
You know, it's interesting that you say that about the property taxes, because Casey Crow from Lexington told me something I didn't know, which is that the property taxes on single family homes are not allocated to education. It's the property taxes on rental properties that are allocated to education. So even though we live in a district and we own our home, our property taxes do not pay for our school system. It's all these military families that are renting homes in our neighborhood. It's all those apartment complexes, right, with lower income families that are living in them. That's who's paying the bulk of our state taxes that go to education. So that's even worse, right? Because those of us who are demanding a solution, those of us who are saying on the phone with our Richland school district, I want options, we're not even paying for them. Compulsory or otherwise, we're not even paying for them, other than the federal money. So we, in South Carolina, we fund education to the tune of $10 billion. $10 billion in South Carolina. And that's a combination of federal, state, and local taxes. But yeah, as property taxes, it's not your primary residence that money goes to. Casey Crow told me about that. Okay.
Does that vary by county?
I don't think so. I think it's statewide. I think it's state taxes statewide, because when we were talking about it, and I said the thing about property taxes and having sort of a right, having a voice with my education system, and he was like, oh, you think you do, but you don't. South Carolina is basically the king of redirecting taxation to people who don't have a voice in the state house. Like our transient folks that come into the military bases, like our tourists that come into places like Charleston and Myrtle Beach, right? Basically anybody who comes to South Carolina that doesn't have a strong advocacy in the state house, we're going to tax them. And we're going to use their money to do our own business, which is just so wrong in so many ways. Back to taxation is theft, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's talk one more time about the choices that you're going to make for your kids. So at this point, is homeschool an option? Like, would you defect from the curriculum that you've been given? Because South Carolina rejected Common Core, right? And we created our own standards. And our standards are actually pretty high. In South Carolina, you have to have 24 credits to graduate with a high school diploma. In California, you only need 13. So the South Carolina standards are actually pretty high. So would you defect from the South Carolina curriculum to educate your kid at home, or would you be looking for some kind of state developed solution, like Melissa said, Connections Academy or your local school district? Jessica.
At this point, I don't think I would. Not right now, because first of all, I'm not in a position work-wise to be able to do that. I could do it with my elder son. I think he would be fine, but my younger one, I'm not built for that. I mean, I would have to send him to a private school. I wouldn't, and I know that I would not be able to fill that void. I would not be able to fill that role. If it got to a point where I felt like I needed to for their safety or their well-being, I would. But we're in a very good spot in our district that we have some of the best schools. My kids go to some of the best schools in our district. And so right now, no, I can't see myself shifting to homeschool primarily. Now, if we transitioned to like a voucher system where we could choose more of the school choice, then probably private school would be a better option for our family. But I can't pay what I pay in taxes and pay tuition.
Melissa, would you consider homeschool as an option for your kids?
We actually did traditional homeschooling for my son when he was in 3rd grade. But then we decided to switch to the online public school for 4th grade because he has a middle school, high school he wants to go to, the Charleston Academy of Science and Math. And it's 6th grade through 12th. It's tiny classes, it's hands-on STEM and science. And I wanted to make sure he had the same subjects covered as the kids coming from public school. And I don't know what they cover in public school. So we signed him up for the online school because it's the best of both worlds. My daughters, I would homeschool them if we get to the end of this year and it's looking like they're still going to have the plexiglass dividers and you have to wear a mask all day. I will homeschool them. They go to a Montessori school right now. It's a magnet school. So they got in through lottery. We're not zoned for it. So if I pull them out, they don't get to go back. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sending them to the school we're zoned for. Our house was cheap for a reason. Our school is not good, and I'm not sending them there.
So Alex, would you consider that as Perry gets a little bit older? Would you consider taking on that role of homeschool teacher mom?
Well, that has been our plan for many years, even pre-Perry, to homeschool. You guys all know my husband, and I can say this because it's not him saying it, but at any given point, he's the smartest person in the room, and he was homeschooled. And I'm sorry, I want it for Perry. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be the best teacher, but I love the idea of him getting to just constantly use his imagination. And we have quite a few resources I'm looking into right now and a lot of friends who do it as it is. And I'm also excited to see Sean help Perry learn too. So I'm not going to necessarily be mom teacher extraordinaire, although I am going to try my hardest, but Perry will definitely be homeschooled, and I will be also planning every single day to find a way to get him around people, because we also want him to be very, very social. So we'll be doing the co-op thing and all of that. And yeah. I hope it's okay I said that about Sean. I truly feel it in my heart. Y'all, if you could see or understand the inside of his mind, I feel like we'd all be like, oh, okay, dude, that's fine. You got all of us beat, you know. Well, that's really cool.
It's really funny that you say that, because when I finished my PhD, that was when my father-in-law was like, so are you going to homeschool Holly? I was like, what? And he goes, well, you have a PhD. I was like, what? Like, just like, I don't.
That's not why I got it.
Yeah, like I was like, how much money does she have? Is she going to pay me for this? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Because I got the PhD to make some money, friend. Yeah. So I had been a little bit. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. I'm gonna say this out loud. I'd been really judgmental of homeschoolers because as I was teaching undergrad, I had multiple students that came to me that had been homeschooled. And one of them had never heard of the civil rights movement. And when I started thinking about the level of freedom that people have as to what they teach their kids and what they don't. I mean, I had a guy that came to visit us when we were in, when I was in high school. One of our exchange students came from South Africa, and he didn't know that the Holocaust was a thing, right? Like, so there is such a clear filter of how education is being delivered to your kid. And so I thought, like, I wouldn't want to not have control over that. Also, a lot of homeschools are faith-based homeschools. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes they have tendencies to teach things like creationism. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's your faith. I understand that. But it's also not the, or flat earth, right, is not the common understanding of scientific fact. So let's not handicap our children from the very beginning by forcing our own beliefs upon them. And we've been talking about that from the very beginning with Parenting Porcupines, teaching your kids how to think instead of what to think. And as a homeschool mom, I was really worried that if I was her only influence, I would be teaching her what to think and not how. And so now I think I have a little bit more confidence in myself, but I would definitely do like Melissa and rely upon a platform that says, here's a standard curriculum that is approved by other people that are not just Casey. And I would be looking for outside resources to weigh in on that. But I do think that every parent should have the choice to do the right thing for their family and for their kids. And that's very much the libertarian side of this.
Yeah, and that's very much what we plan to do. Something that we talk about literally daily in our home with just the two of us, literally, is how truth is able to be questioned. So we are Christians, but we are not going to teach Perry, this is exactly how it happened. You don't need to know anything else. I mean, that's kneecapping the poor guy. Like, that's not okay. So we will teach him absolutely everything that we can. We will go by a curriculum. We will do as many co-ops as we can. And we'll say, listen, this is what we believe. Actually, Sean and I believe it at different levels. This is what we believe. You need to question it, because you can question truth, and truth will always come out on top. So that's basically our underlying thing here in the Thornton house, and it'll be the same for his education.
I agree with that. And I like the idea of separating the capital T truth from the lowercase t truth, right? Where we say capital T truth. And that's very much like college level philosophy. So I don't know if you introduced that in kindergarten or what. I just know homeschoolers are like way smarter. So probably it's like, it's coming in like elementary school. Kant, Immanuel Kant. Capital T versus lowercase t.
That's right.
All right. This has been Parenting Porcupines. We did tell Melissa we were going to wrap up before bedtime, and we went over a little bit. So thank you, Melissa, for hanging in there with us. And you should like the show. You should subscribe to the show. You should hang in there with us. Find all the show notes out on parentingporcupines.com. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.